today's web GPS to a successful career. You can review here about the topic. So in this session, we have Julia here, a colleague of mine in the Barcelona office, who will be talking about the subject, and she'll give you background information about herself. And we'll just here, but she's been 15 years. She's participated in other webinars for us as well. National Strengths for Career Success, which was wonderful, and we do have that recording on NetAcad Advantage and in NetSpace. So she's leads the talent management office at Worldwide Sales and is responsible for talent management for 1,000 Cisco employees and contractors. So today's session. Then for the session, we will have a roundtable with our guests who are all. Go through the slide quickly so you can see a quick overview. So we have Australia, as well as who's also from Cisco, and Kazel, who is a mentee, and present themselves later on. And so you have this information right now. We'll have a table. So while we're going through this session, please write down any questions that might come up for you on a notepad. We'll have plenty of time for question and answer in the end of the session. And just pop up and call so you can actually go ahead and walk.
And what? Hello, I'm Ravka Novkovic, and like Julie said, I work at Cisco. I work in an organization that is called Worldwide Sales Enablement. Is part of Cisco sales organization. I wanted to start the presentation today with a proverb. I think a Chinese proverb, and it's that you give a person a fish, you for a day teach them how to fish. You fish. That's for me a little bit like essence of mentoring. This is what mentoring is all about. The word mentor appears in Greek literature. In Homer's Odyssey, you know, Odyssey was the guy who went to war, and then, you know, took him about 10 years to go back home, and he left his family and especially his son, the action of his young son, to his trusted friend called mentor. So mentoring is let me try to run of the past more than 2,500 years has evolved, and indeed we have new mentoring paradigms. I think we had a video for the call that maybe you can share on URL on YouTube. It features Jack Welch. Jack Welch is a former executive officer and chairman of General Electric. And Jack said, unlike the old traditional mentoring, which was having one father figure almost for you, Odyssey's son had throughout his life for himself, it's actually dangerous to have that. And try to look at to have mentors as those that you want to learn and that you want to master. And, you know, think about being a mentor and being mentored. Think about mentoring somebody. Walsh also says that everyone is a teacher, and every one of us has something to teach other people around us, and help them in some way, shape, or form. Because about development, these modern mentoring has evolved and has many shapes, and people mentor on different topics. Here, just you know, some of them. When we have a new hire, when a new person joins Cisco, encourage them to find a mentor for themselves, and or to ask their manager to assign a mentor to them. Is informational mentoring. That could be somebody from your team, your teammate, who can basically just show you around, answer basic questions, and point in the right direction. You know, tell you where to go. very, very important at the beginning of a new job when you join a company, when you, for instance, start your first job. Find somebody who can do that for you, because it's going to help you and make it easier and faster for you to get on your feet and start being really productive in the new job. Go through your job, you start to observe people around yourself, and you start finding people that have skills that perhaps you don't have, specific skills that you would want to develop. And there's nothing wrong with reaching out to those people, asking them if they would like to teach you, or perhaps spend some time with you to explain how they do, so that you can model your skill along the lines of some very good things that you have seen them doing. Mentoring on career development. I mean, typically career mentors are people that are maybe a couple of levels higher in the hierarchy of an organization, or experienced in a field that you would like to go into, that you would like to enter. And those are people that can give you a lot of, because of their experience, they can give you a lot of guidance, a lot of advice, and you're lucky. And if they're influencing in the organization, they can sometimes also sponsor you. We'll talk today. We have today, real life people, mentor and the mentee, that will talk about their experiences, and you will hear, who they are and how they did it. But I wanted to just offer, just my view on what the profiles of mentors and mentees are, what that make a great mentee, and how a great mentor should look like. If you're looking for a mentor, what do you look like? How do you recognize them? Mentee, so a person that is that has a mentor. He is definitely a person that is willing to grow. Foremost, is willing to change, is willing to do something new, is willing to take action, and is committed to actually their personal and professional growth. It is very difficult, impossible actually, to mentor somebody who doesn't want to do anything and want to change anything in how they do, what they do, and the skills that they currently have. Mentor for me is a leader, and by leader, I don't just mean the person is a manager or that has people reporting to them. Leaders, anybody who you will see out there do things and behave in a certain way where you say, "Wow, I want to learn how to do that." Mentors tend to be experienced people, and they very often are connectors, what we call connectors. They're people that know a lot of other people. So if in any given point in time, they can't help you, chances are they will find or recommend, somebody else to help. And experience, at least, is that often than not, mentors will be people that had been mentored throughout career in their life. So it's also a way to give back. We're all different, and some of us, like to go with the flow and don't worry much about structure. But some of us like to prepare and maybe plan and think a little bit about the structure we're going to give to this new area into which we're going. So for those who like that, I have a very simple model for you. It's like 4 steps, very simple, and we'll talk about every of those. We'll talk about each and every of those steps in a little bit more in detail. But I want to say that the question I get most often is, how much time should I ask from my mentor? Or if person wants to become a mentor, how much time should I dedicate to my mentee? Here's just a guideline out of experience of many people that have mentored at Cisco. 1 hour per month, up to 2, maximum 3 hours. Really depends on how urgent is your need and what is the availability of your mentor. So let's get into the phases, and let's go a little bit to these stages. Preparation. It's really a message for you, or perhaps advice, not to jump into a mentoring relationship. Take a step back and think about, what you want to get out of it, and what the expectations are. Because preparation is important for ultimate success of a relationship, or something like mentoring. And preparation is all about expectations on the side of mentor, and on the slide where we talk about the mentee. You back to that profile that I was talking about, the mentor. In the end, mentors are people that are resource. They're a resource for us. They are very often role model, and if you're really lucky, you're a trusted advisor. I want you to take a look at the right-hand side of it, what is not expected from a mentor, and perhaps the last bullet here that says, it's not expected that that mentor and mentee actually develop a friendship. I should say it's a nice byproduct of a relationship, but absolutely necessary for a successful mentoring relationship. Go into the profile I was talking about, profile of a person that wants some change, wants to learn something, and quite honestly, things that you see on the expectations on the left-hand side are common sense. If you're going to ask somebody to invest their time and energy in helping you develop personally or professionally, it's that you should at least allocate time and energy relationship, and that you certainly follow through on your commitments. I want to hear something out of my experience. I had a lot of managers during my almost 18 years at Cisco, and few of them have been my mentors. And great, it's absolutely great when your manager is your mentor. But I often actually advise people to look for mentors even outside of their team, and outside of the zone of influence of their manager. Because sometimes your mentor could become a broker of a situation between you. Because there are things that certainly always things that you can say to your mentor, but that you couldn't possibly say face-to-face to your manager. And vice versa. There are things that your manager can tell to mentor easier than they can tell to your face. So sometimes there could be some challenging situations in the relationship between your manager and yourself, where a mentor is dependent, but who's got your benefits and your well-being and your development much more at heart, could actually to both sides, and to find a solution to challenge or any problem that you may have with your manager during your career. Establish phase. Establishing is all about creating. So now you thought about what kind of things you want mentoring, what kind of a mentor profile you want, or what kind of mentee profile you would like to work with. And establishing is about connecting with those people. In this establishing phase, I find very useful to talk with my mentor or with my mentee about just sort of a framework of a relationship. Some people document it, some people put it on paper, but you don't have to. But I think it's important to have a discussion, and to clarify those expectations that I was talking about in the first phase. Are we on the same frequency, if you like? And could we sort of get to, for lack of better word, a contact between partners? This is a phase in which what you want mentoring on. You define also what kind of results you would like to have as a result of mentoring, maybe in 3 or 6 months or a certain period of time. Type of relationship. Most of mentoring is happening as one-to-one, but there are forms. There's group mentoring, or they call it cluster mentoring, where one person is mentoring a small group of people, and they just meet up on a regular basis. There's something called situational mentoring. An example of situational mentoring is to do in a month time, a very important presentation, and of course I will work with my manager, for that presentation. But I just need somebody to take a look at it and maybe give it a different angle, or just sit and listen to me while I pitch that presentation, because it's important to me. So that's situational mentoring. After I've done my presentation, the mentoring is over. There is no further relationship. This phase in which you talk with your mentor or mentee about how often you're going to meet, perhaps even how long the mentoring is going to last. And a concept of confidentiality, one I want to touch on. Assumed that everything that is said between a mentor and a mentee remains confidential. But the areas, and I think it's good to talk with to talk in a mentoring relationship about what the confidentiality means. To what extent, okay for you, for instance, if you're a mentee, to what is okay that your mentor, what things are good for your mentor to say to your manager, and what things you wouldn't want them to say. It's good to set some ground rules up before you jump into mentoring relationship. Is the third stage, and sustaining is all about, is actually where the bulk of work happens during mentoring relationship. I have some bullet points for you, maybe some advice on how to sustain mentor relationship for a longer period of time. But I really wanted to talk about the very beginning of the mentoring relationship. There's something we call the agenda for the first 3 things. And as I said, try to rush into a relationship. I think it is always good to spend at least first 2 meetings with your mentor on a lighter content, if you like. First meeting is usually an opportunity to get to know a person, and also talk a little bit about this mentoring agreement. The second meeting, you should probably start to initial goals, start the discussion. But these 2 first meetings should really offer an easy way out for both parties, for and for mentee, so that if maybe say, well, click that I expected, or perhaps it's not it's not a good time for a mentor after all, and it's okay. I mean, it's okay to say, we'll maybe take this opportunity and just talk about it, a little bit later, in a couple of months' time, because I think we'll get into the third meeting. It's really where you start the dialogue, when you start addressing some of your learning objectives and things like that. And one thing that one very practical tip I want to offer you is that every time that you meet with your mentor or your mentee, make sure to set the agenda for the next meeting. Put a calendar for both of you and set some time aside, but also set that everybody knows what needs to be done and talk about in the next meeting. Is super practical, and it just drives the commitment, drives you to action the things that you need to do in between the mentoring sessions. I about mentoring as a relationship, and every relationship has a close. And so mentoring as a relationship also has closure. It is required, cathartic, and necessary sometimes. And of course, any closure, it could be a positive experience, and sometimes it could be a negative experience as well. Just what happens in a mentoring relationship is that it just sort of drifts away, and we see and speak to each other, and over time, we just don't do it anymore. I think it's not a good thing. I think you should try to have a closing connection with your mentor, because that's really an excellent opportunity for growth, for action, and for assessment. And it's going to be really, really good, especially for mentees, to understand how is the relationship contributed to what they want to do next. I encourage you to take a look at there's an article, Mentoring and Protege. The author, a lady called Louise Zachary, 2 or 3 pages, is beautifully written, very concise. It's written in the last century, but never mind, it's still valid, and it talks a little bit about types of this dysfunctional closure. So, talk in detail about that, and she also talks about some strategies and some tips to have a meaningful closure. I just want to mention, this number 3 that says respect your mentoring partner decision. When a mentor, comes to you and says that they need to the mentoring relationship, I think you need to respect it. I mean, before you accept it, you could probably try to negotiate and see if you can adjust it so that you continue mentoring, especially if it is a really good mentoring. But in the end, respect your mentoring partner decision. And out of my personal experience, I would also like to say that don't wait for the end of mentoring relationship to show your appreciation and to thank people for help that they're giving you. And celebrate successes. Celebrate when you have used the lessons and the knowledge that they have given you, and you applied it, and it was really successful, because you can never assume that mentoring is going to last forever. So with that, I'll open before the panel. Julie, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, you can save those until the question and answer. So thank you very much, Dubravka. That was really helpful. I'm just going to put in the chat, I posted the video from the YouTube, and also another blog that you had sent over about Chris Lemma on mentoring, and it shows different types of mentors to have in your life. So I'm just posting another in the chat for people. I was thinking, before we get into, let me take the ball back, before we get into the roundtable, I actually just want to see where our audience is at. So let me just share activate your, let's see here. So you should be able to annotate. So you can use the pointer, which you can see on the upper left-hand part of your screen. And just let us know if you have ever had a mentor, and just take the arrow that's on the left-hand part of the WebEx and just the yes or the no. So for you can ever had a mentor before. Okay, so okay. You signed up for the webinar, but I was just curious today to see who has been on it. So let's just try one more thing, because this is the fun part of WebEx, is that you can actually participate. Ask one more question. Why mentoring? So the tool, which is the text tool right next to the arrow, so click on that. You can type on the screen, the T or you can take the pen and let us know, you saw the information about the webinar today. Why were you interested in coming? So just a pulse of the audience before the rest. Any thoughts? What made you, what was interesting about mentoring for you? Okay, if you just want to put it in the chat while the of a quiet audience today. I want to answer this question in the chat while we're going through the next the instructions. Feel free to go ahead and do that. Back to the slide. Introduce our roundtable guests. I have them introduce themselves. Slide, although they do have their videos on, but I'll put up the slide with a bit of background information. Go ahead and start with you, Thomas. If you can just give us an overview about tell us yourself, why you decided to become a mentor, found your mentee, the experience, and what you got out of being a mentor. Let's go and start with you. I'm going to unmute. Yep.
Hey, you guys can hear me okay, yeah?
Yep.
Go for almost 15 years now, and pretty much most of those times worked in advanced service or pretty much in the technical area, specialization. Much been an engineer all my life, and obviously accumulated a lot of experience over the years, but as you all know, especially in the technical IT area, there's always more we can learn. So what the Brian mentioned before, that we never really stop learning all our life. I can only second that, because hey, I don't know and I need to ask other people. So in that sense, the technical arena, we just mentor each other with other peers constantly on a day-to-day basis. Maybe for the mentoring, we just call it an exchange of experiences and knowledge. But as far as mentoring itself in the more formal form is concerned, years when I started, I had one or two different mentors during the various years, depending on which team I just joined. And a more senior member of the team, a similar role as me, but he would basically be in the team for much longer, and he would have a personal mentor. It was, I would say, an informal kind of relationship, so there was no limit in terms of how much time we could spend on a weekly basis to go specific things, because we would typically work in a team, and the question I can ask at any time and was the same. It was only just until, I would say, recent years where basically I joined the company for many years. I'm a mentor myself to other junior team members that joined the team. So in a similar way, only this time I was basically sitting on mentor and not on the mentee end. It's always, at least for me, a very humble, also a very good experience to share my knowledge and to see how people grow in their knowledge and in their experience. It's especially important that the personalities get on with each other. So it has to be a bit of compromise and patience on both sides. And well, at least in our organization here. And the recent experience, which was a real formal mentor program, was in conjunction an internal competition, or not internal, I would say, but it was Cisco hosted a competition called Cyber Security Heroes, and it included lots of students from the Network Academy. There was a competition where they win a 3 months mentorship with one of our mentors, which in this case, so. And they met up for 3 months every week for 1 to 2 hours, and the question he had between, as well as went through, in our case, security products from Cisco, security design, talked about work in typical corporate environment where you would use security solutions, included some less type sizes in there so that he has as well some hands-on experience. And he really enjoyed the experience, and for me it was again a good opportunity to reframe some of the fundamentals, because we tend to forget those as well. And good both of us. So the ultimate satisfaction for me was when Don, which was the name of this guy, when he managed to get a job a couple of months later after finishing up with formal education program as well as our program, and it was because you could read that mentorship program, it's done well, can affect basically the future and the career of other people that you're mentoring. Personally, the outcome was also stunning, because I was approached actually from the manager of the educational facility where this guy was studying to part I'm teaching there, because they kind of looked for someone who works in the industry and can share the knowledge with students ongoing. So I'm still once a week on security. So being a mentor as well leads you in your career path. So that was a good experience.
Video done on Thomas and that the Asia Pacific team did, and I put that video in the chat. It's really interesting. You hear both Thomas and Don's point of view from the experience. So great. Thank you for. Okay, we're going to go over to the next two guests that are on, and they're actually on the call together, so you'll see them both in the video. From the mentor side, who also works for Cisco in Australia, and will be coming from the mentee side, and they actually were mentor and mentee together, and they're here with us today. So Shay, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and then Kazel, you can do your introduction.
Shay Howard, and I've been with Cisco for 14 years now in many different roles, really on the business side of things, so jobs like business analyst, customer service relationship manager, program manager, product manager, and now I am what's called a partner business consultant. So whenever Cisco decides to launch new services into the market, I then go work with our partners to help them integrate it into their business so that we can help them sell Cisco solutions out into customer base. And I do that across Australia and New Zealand, but I work in a team that spans Asia Pacific, China, Japan and India as well. I just a quick check. Julie, did you want us to go to like why I became a mentor and all of that stuff now, or did you want me to quickly introduce Kazel while I'm here, since we're both on screen at the same time?
Well, if you guys want to do it, but yeah, the idea was that you told us a bit about yourself, why you wanted to become a mentor, how you found your mentee, the experience. Okay. So just an overview, and then we'll go into some specific questions. Okay,
let's do that first then. Why I decided to become a mentor, I had two main reasons. Firstly, I think I really would have benefited from having a mentor earlier in my career than what I have now. So I wanted to proactively provide that opportunity to others and help raise the importance of having a mentor. When I was in my early 20s, when I was first starting out, I didn't really put much stock into finding a mentor. I thought it was only for people that were CEO, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I also thought that a mentor was a thing that was a little bit out of my reach, and that's so not the case. So I really want to help raise the awareness of why everyone should have a mentor throughout their career, no matter whether they're just starting out or whether they're a system been like me for 14 years. The reason why is because I want to help dispel the myths around what it's like to work in the IT industry, and just as importantly, what a successful career journey looks like. I think we're told fairly different things from Hollywood and from, you know, best-selling autobiographies, that there's a certain way in which you have to achieve career success, and I've learned that's certainly not true. And I think through mentoring we can help dispel some of those myths, that you don't have to have your traditional career journey of starting at the bottom and working your way up the top all the way through. Then what I think we're also asked to look at, well, what's mentoring of value to a mentee? And I think working with Hazel and the other students from UTS last year, I think we really worked out that they can benefit from the experience and hindsight that the mentor has, and they can certainly learn from my mistakes. So I'm thinking, if I make a mistake and someone else can learn from it, then I've made that mistake. They can also use mentoring to increase their network, build their network, particularly if it's the part of their career. And they can also use mentoring to get exposure into different business areas that their current role or within the organisation might not get them access to. Around being valuable to a mentee. In terms of why it's valuable for people to mentor, I think it's things. One, it's not just about feeling because you're helping someone, that's certainly part of it, but I think it gives you the opportunity for self-reflection, and it helps you put into perspective the choices you've made in your own career, and again, and so it can help you understand why you've made your choices, and then others can learn from that. And the mentors that I worked with last year, when we worked together, it helped us build our own network. So I got to meet a whole bunch of different people that I wouldn't normally have done if I hadn't mentored students like Hazel. So I think that's what we've been doing now. I might hand to Hazel now, and then we can maybe talk about some advice to mentees a little bit later.
My name's Hazel, and I'm when I did the program last year, I was in my final year of my degree, and the reason I started the program was just to get the industry exposure before I entered the workforce. I was getting a lot more than that out of the program. It wasn't just IT, it was all different areas that we could that learnt about. So it was career progression, working, how to work professionally, and just like personal confidence in yourself and playing to your strengths. All that kind of stuff was I was able to improve on during the mentoring program. So yeah, I found my mentor. She's quite a senior manager in technical services, and it was really intimidating, and I wasn't really sure how to go about asking for advice, what to talk to her about, and then I think because she was so confident and she'd probably done similar things mentoring before, just more informally, she kind of, broke it down and was like, we can do this, what are your problem areas, what do you want to improve on, what I'm currently doing. I was looking for work, I was applying for graduate programs, and I really needed help with my resumes and my interviews and all that kind of thing. So she was able to organize things around. She also tried to find out what my interests were and what areas in IT I wanted to go into. And she also opened my mind up to other areas that I might be interested in. So talking to like IT services architects and project managers and all networks were able to help me, which was really, like, if she didn't have an answer for something, she would go and actively go and find someone that could help
that
me.
connector
Yeah,
that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, so she was really good with that kind of stuff. Like, she helped me meet all these different people, and she had her professional networks, and I kind of absorbed a couple of them as well. So my LinkedIn's pretty good now. Yeah. And I think probably what should I talk about? Mentoring, things like.
Oh, what about your visit to WestCon?
Oh, okay. So we got to meet distributors, one of Cisco's distributors, WestCon, and that was good. I think I never I guess knew that part of our supply chain, supplying in the IT industry, was distributors, resellers, and vendors like Cisco, and that's in working potentially for either a distribution company or a reseller. Now I'm working for a reseller, and I do get to talk to people at WestCon occasionally, and it was really just helped me in my first year of work, is just a good understanding of what the IT industry is like, what to expect, and professionally, that's what I gained from mentoring at Cisco.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing. So I just wanted people to post their questions in the Q&A, and then we can ask them to you. If anyone has questions on the call, please post those in the Q&A, and then we can ask those to the panel. Okay, we're getting started. Thoughts that comes to mind is, different people are points of notes on the call. Some people maybe are already working, some people are still studying. Do you the person to find a mentor, or would you say that mentoring is something that done at any point along your career, and maybe the benefits that could be found in those different points, someone who's still studying versus someone who's already in a career? Since Jay, all right, you can give your feedback?
Sure. I actually think that there is no time like the present. So if you don't have a mentor, I don't think it necessarily matters really in your career you are. It's always good to have a mentor or someone that you can talk to that may be outside of your family, and if you do have a job, also outside of your immediate work environment, that you go seek guidance on. So if you don't have a mentor, I say use your network to go find one, and don't let it put you off. So you say, well, it's just, I've only just left, or what have you. I think the earlier you have one, the better. And that's one of the things that I definitely regret. When I left university, I didn't really have an idea about what I wanted to do, or even what an office environment looked like. So retail jobs when I was at university, and going from retail or tutoring people in economics and things like that to work in an organisation is really intimidating and really hard to make that transition. So if a mentor, I think it would have made things a lot easier. But as you progress, I think your other question was how does it differ as you move through your career journey? And I think it does, because you're using your mentor for different things, and I think that's important. One of the things we learned last year, and it was the best piece of advice we got given, is a mentor should have a coach and someone can provide you with guidance, but as you establish yourself in your career, they can also become your advocate. And when they become your advocate, it means they can open more opportunities, more doors and more opportunities for you to consider. But someone who can be that advocate and be that champion for you, and I think it's important as your career progresses.
Yeah, I think even if you're well into your career, things new opportunities are going to come up, and the more you can have with that, it can only be beneficial.
Okay, great. The kind of the life cycle that you should find a mentor.
Milan's question here, but what's the question?
Yeah. The point I was just saying that on the call we have people who are in different points in their career. So some may still be studying, and some may be working and are advancing in their careers. So do you think it's a key time to find a mentor, or is it something at any point along your career, and what would be the benefits?
You learn every day, wherever we are. Mentoring, there is no harm in getting a real mentor in any workplace, and it's, it applies to every area of life, really. So I'm not offense I work currently, but I can always suggest if you're somewhere in a workplace where you kind of feel a little bit left behind because you kind of, or you just feel like you don't have enough skills or knowledge to do the day-to-day job, or you just simply want to learn more, just look out for, at least talk to your manager there and say, I would really like to work with a mentor. After that, in some cases, even your own manager can become a good mentor. And I don't think it needs to be always a formal mentoring program, because some organizations, they just don't facilitate that, from my own experience. But there's an informal way of doing it, right? And simply having a person to you that's more experienced in the organization in a particular role, or simply more life experience, and it's just hooking up with this person, and even approach a person that you like personally, when see a colleague who is like a bit of a friend, nothing saying, hey, what about a couple of months? It's just to aspect in your own hands as well, to reach out and not just wait for people to approach you. For mentors, if you're keen on mentoring someone else, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are willingly volunteering to have you mentoring them if they're very experienced.
Any comments on the same question?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because we talked a lot about it from the mentee point of view. Question in Q&A about is this essentially an altruistic act to mentor somebody? It is. I mean, there is a lot to say about human nature that wants to help another human being. I mean, that's always nice. But there are benefits for mentors as well. And both Thomas and she talked about what is it that they get out of it. I just wanted to add something that's very in vogue, a type of mentoring that's very much in vogue. It's called reverse mentoring. And reverse mentoring is for the first time, 3 generations are actually working together. In a work, you'll still find some baby boomers. You'll find Generation X. You'll find Generation Y, and that the reverse mentoring is actually used for all the generations, if you like, to learn about the ways and things that new generations think, the way they work, the way they, the attitudes, their behaviors, and as well as their preferences. For companies, for organizations that practice that kind of reverse mentoring is very beneficial because that makes people from different generations complement each other better and get things done for the organization.
Great feedback. That kind of leads into another question I had in thinking about the organizational structures, and we can work from the office or we can work from home. We'll team, today we're connecting Barcelona, which Radka nor I are from Barcelona. I'm originally from the U.S., from Seattle. Is from Bosnia. We have our colleagues in Australia, so we have people from the call from Nigeria, from Saudi Arabia, from Sri Lanka. Very international, and the question came up about mentoring via WebEx or mentoring, so you could comment that, and also kind of as a follow-up, how it actually worked. So we did you meet in person? Did you meet every week? Did you do video mentoring, or was it always kind of situation? So, Rossa, maybe you can just start.
Actually, a combination. I mean, depends on the person, because it really depends, what you're mentoring on and what the needs of the mentee is. And to be honest, I mean, it's nice to meet people and have a cup of coffee together, but we also have a cup of virtual coffee as well. WebEx is good enough. Videos is good enough to do it. So I really go depending on the need and depending on people that contact me and ask for me to mentor them. When I look for mentor, which is also something I do. I do have a couple of mentors. I actually look for people that I've in situations, like I said, in my introduction, that I've seen, and I said, wow, this is something I want to know. This is a person that I want to talk to. And I try to schedule regular monthly one-to-ones. In my case, because we're all very busy, they're about half an hour a month. But even to just, take a step back from what you do on day-to-day basis, and think about fast forward, and think about mid to long term some things that you want to do. I think it helps also clear your mind and get out of day-to-day work we all have.
Okay, maybe you can talk a little bit about logistics of it.
Yeah, two examples. One, from my perspective, I've got my main mentor is based out of San Jose, and at San Jose, California. And so I'm here in Sydney. Mentor is based out of San Jose. And so we do a lot of our mentoring over the phone or via WebEx using the technology that you see here, which is fantastic. I'm quite specific with her, so I sought her out because I wanted to improve my executive level communication and influencing skills, particularly at that CXO kind of level. So I was really specific with what I wanted, and I went and approached her, people for some recommendations. Who's a good person around there who can learn from? And I heard about Lisa. I didn't know her, but I heard her, and she was more than willing to help me, which was fantastic. And it was a bit of a leap of faith because I must admit I was really nervous in approaching her beforehand, but she was more than happy to help me, and we worked out the logistics using WebEx so that we can contact each other, and then we'll also email as well, but primarily using collaborative technology like you see here. The second example I wanted to talk about was the program that we used with the students such as Kazel. There was a couple of mentors, actually there was one mentor that started a relationship with their student and then found she had to go to India. So their meeting face-to-face was somewhat limited. So again, they used presence and video conferencing as well as WebEx to make that work. And we also had another student who went to Japan.
Oh, yeah.
So while she was in Japan, we did some meetings with her for some Japanese colleagues and had a presence session with her. So she was out on anything. In fact, she got a more enriched experience. We put her in contact with people from Cisco, which was awesome. Being flexible. Substitute when you're first meeting with someone around face-to-face, but if that doesn't work, there's lots of good technology in place to make it work. You've got to be a little bit flexible with it. Anything to add?
No. I used I guess a mixture of person, which we did quite a lot, and then the group activities. But then we call, we did a lot of that. If I did have a question or if we just wanted to touch base, maintaining that program.
Yeah.
Knowing if something was working or if, so keep in touch with doing my applications and my interviews and just be like, oh, how did that go? And then and then she'd come back with feedback. It was, it's really good. Because she was so busy, she kept going.
She was traveling too.
Yeah, so it was, to meet sometimes.
Okay, Tom. What was the structure?
Primarily for us it was a face-to-face thing because he was in Sydney, I was in Sydney, so I generally think in most situations face-to-face is always better, especially initially. Get to know each other. Once you get a better feel for the other person, this is kind of mutual. And it's perfect to throw a couple of WebEx or video conference typing sessions. But I think a pure remote relationship, but if there's the possibility of catching up in person. So obviously it's not always possible if the people live in different cities and different countries or continents even, but I think again, I also don't think that if you have someone over the door to use those technologies, and it's also very effective to do. Comes to a personal preference as well, I guess, to some extent.
Okay, perfect. I'd like to close with just your full thoughts to wrap up. So if all that are motivated to go out and find a mentor, what would be your tips as they embark on speaking to them and they're approaching someone, and do they come up with a structure, what they want to get, the goals? You said that you were nervous when you talked to the person in San Jose, asked them to be your mentor. Just what would be a final tip as they go out for this mentor person in their lives? So if you want to go ahead and start.
Correctly, what to do or how the best approach to find a mentor?
Yeah, what's just a tip as someone goes out to approach someone to be a mentor for them?
Looking actively for a mentor, again, if you're already working in a workplace and this kind of for a mentor in your particular area where you work and to kind of grow there, then I would involve your manager anyway, because if it's mentoring the workplace, then stakeholders like managers, team lead, etc., that should be across of what's going on. And probably also in a good position to work with others to tell them who would be a best suitable person to be a mentor as well, because sometimes as a mentee or as someone looking for a mentor, you may not really know who the best person is. So it's also good to bounce off a couple of other people to see who's suitable for that, because it's not only a matter of skills, but also a personality that can bring the skills across to you and is happy to be patient and willing to teach. In a current work situation, and you're looking for someone to mentor, and I get the impression some of the call that they are in this kind of situation. Hopefully, again, I'll leave the comments, but there's some remote available where Cisco can help, and I've seen some questions on that from some of the people here. Hopefully, you can maybe comment on that. What's available in that sense. I don't know. I guess that's all I can suggest so far. Yeah, just reach out to your.
Okay.
I think you need to be specific about what you want help with. The more specific you are, the more you're able to find the best fit for a mentor for you. If you use me as an example, I wanted some mentoring around some executive communication and influencing skills. So if I was specific around that, I was then able to go and ask for a recommendation on who would be able to best help me with that. If you're generic and general, then it may be harder to get that fit. So be specific about what you want. And the second piece is just be brave and go and ask, because more people are going to be willing to help you than you think. And more people are going to be, more be helpful, and more people are going to be generous with their time than you think they are, no matter how busy they are. I'll leave it with that, I think, Julie.
From the mentee point of view?
Being very prepared with like what you want to get out of a relationship, because especially a mentor that is quite busy, you just be like, oh, can you just help me with, everything? Like, you kind of want to create goals, and you want to make sure you're actively going about improving yourself or learning things. So, just get most out of the relationship as you can, because, people are always busy, and you want to try to make sure that you're using it or being useful. And then the mentor can kind of gauge what they're giving to you, and they can see, oh, she's improved in this way, there's, she's able to do that. And it's more beneficial because, getting a mentor to learn. Like, they help you if you are really not sure about your career, just by giving you advice, and just ask those questions and be really open-minded about what you can learn from them.
Something that you're passionate about and that is important for you, and then go around and ask people how to learn about it, and where do I go? Just keep open mind, and if you go to people that you see are connectors, you'll find your way.
Perfect. Everyone for joining today. I know we ran a little bit over, but we really appreciate you joining the session. There's going to be a survey that pops up, so please to fill out your feedback. Very much to all of our guests for joining. We really appreciate your time and your insight, the work that you've been doing with your mentors and your mentees. So thank you for joining. I will post the recording in Netiquette Advantage after session, so you download it and feel free to share. We do have another mentoring call this afternoon if you're excited and you want to hear more from mentors and their experiences. We have one at 5 o'clock our time, so that's in about 8 hours. You're welcome as well if you're on the topic. But if not, we're joining today and hope to see you on our future sessions. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.